Okay, so my name is Kim Morgan. I'm the Outreach and Communications Coordinator for UCL Biochemical Engineering. Very warm welcome. I hope you're having a great day. Just whilst we let people join in, whilst people log in, if you could let us know where you're joining from in the world. It's always really interesting to know where our attendees are. Just pop it in the chat if you're happy to let us know. That'd be really interesting from our point of view. We're going to give it a few moments to let people log in, and then I'm going to hand over. But just to let you know how the system is going to work. If you have, someone's joining from Southeast London. Well, I hope you enjoyed a good morning of sunshine, which is quite rare at the moment at this time of year in London. Thanks for letting us know. Great. So somebody else in Southeast London as well as myself. So if you've got any questions at any point in the session, you're more than welcome to put them in the Q&A box. You've also got the chat function. If you put anything in chat, myself and the other panelists will be able to see it. So please let us know if you have any technical problems you can't hear or we're not coming through clearly. Please let us know in the chat and we'll be able to see that. I'm going to turn my camera off when I hand over to Dr. Qasim Rafiq, but I'll be here in the background if you have any technical problems. I've also got my email active as well, and I think you've received that in communications. But I'm going to hand over to Qasim now and set the session off.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Kim, and thanks everyone for joining us for this session introducing the master's program and getting a chance to meet with some of the academic and teaching staff who are involved in the master's in stem cell and gene therapy here at UCL. So delighted to be joined by you all. As I said, my name is Dr. Qasim Rafiq. I'm an associate professor in cell and gene therapy bioprocess engineering here at UCL in the Department of Biochemical Engineering, and I'm the program lead for this particular master's, and delighted to be joined by a couple of my colleagues within the department who also contribute and teach on the program themselves. So perhaps I'll hand it over to Samir first. Samir, do you want to just briefly introduce yourself?
Thanks, Qasim. Yes, hi everyone. My name is Dr. Samir Naseem. I've been teaching on this program for 2 years now, well, 1.5 technically. I teach 2 of the modules on this degree program, this master's. I look at the preclinical and clinical analysis of advanced therapies. I also look at the process in another module of commercialization and regulation of these therapies as well. To give you an idea of my background, I'm a pharmacologist by trade, so that means I'm not technically a biochemical engineer, but my expertise is in the understanding of drug development as a whole, and my focus now is on drug development of advanced therapeutics, things like cell and gene therapies. So I'll be teaching you on this degree a little bit about how we develop these therapies and also how you actually commercialize them. I did my PhD at Imperial College in pharmacology and got to know industry as a whole a little bit in that process. Then I was a postdoc for many a year working in laboratories on projects related to oncology as well as nanomedicine. And then after that, I went into teaching, and I am a lecturer in teaching at UCL, working under the Department of Biochemical Engineering with Qasim and Rana on this master's degree. And it's lovely to meet you all in reality or sub-reality, whatever you call this. Thank you, Qasim.
So hi everyone, my name is Rana Khalifa. So I did my BS in biochemistry and then cancer research, but I did my PhD in biochemical engineering. I was focusing more on stem cell engineering, like how to modify, to optimize the bioprocessing from patient to patient. And then I've been teaching in the department for the last 4 years. But teaching on this program for the last 2 years as Samir. I am the model leader of for the regenerative medicine minor. And then on the MSc, I teach the practical skills. So we teach you not only the theoretical aspect of the most common practicals we use in the lab, but the troubleshooting, how to overcome the troubleshooting. And then at the end of the course, you go for 1 week to the lab where you have kind of like a scenario, you differentiate your cells, and then you will be able to assess how the condition affected your differentiation. And then you write a report, which is a good thing to do before you go to the lab for your research project.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Rana, and thank you very much, Samir, for the introductions there. Excellent. So you'll have the opportunity later on during the session to ask as many questions as you'd like, and do try and make them as difficult as possible. And I'll fill the difficult ones to Samir and Rana, who, as you know, have also contribute to this program as well. Excellent. Okay, so what I'd like to do first, though, before we jump into the Q&A, just to give you a quick overview about the program, the reason why we set it up, kind of the general components of the program and things that you might be doing if you were to take this program, and just giving you some insights into the things, into our thinking about why we think it's relevant, why we think it's important, and some of the opportunities that it will present. So I'm just going to start sharing my screen. If I can ask Samir or Rana to just confirm that it is sharing.
Yes, I can see that.
Perfect. Okay, so just to give you a quick overview of the program itself. So it is one of the longest titles at UCL for any master's program. So it's the Manufacturing and Commercialization on the Manufacturing and Commercialization of Stem Cell and Gene Therapies MSc. We've chosen this title specifically because we wanted to capture what the key elements of the program are. It's focused on the manufacturing, it's focused on the commercialization. Obviously, we do cover some of the basic science and some of the basic engineering, but we realize that actually the challenges of the industry, as we'll see, very much pertain at the moment to the manufacturing and commercialization, and they're likely to be the challenges of the future in terms of sustaining the industry. So that's really been the focus for us creating this particular program, which we feel is unique. We don't think there's any other program, either nationally or internationally, which focuses on these areas. That is going to start to change, and we've had a number of conversations with both national and international partners who've seen the uniqueness of our course and the importance of our course and want to try and establish something at their respective institutions, organizations, but we're by far, I believe, the furthest ahead in terms of the material and the content, and also the industry uptake and integration into the program itself. So just to give you a quick idea about why this particular area and why this focus. So stem cell and gene therapies are part of a wider type of therapeutic area called advanced therapies. And what we're realizing is that this presents a significant opportunity to develop and improve global health with these new therapeutics, which, as you'll see in the next few slides, are significant in terms of their clinical outputs and revolutionary in terms of what they provide to patients, but also for global health and wealth. So the idea that actually having a manufacturing base and being able to manufacture these novel therapies at scale to treat thousands of patients provides a significant economic opportunity, as well as addressing kind of a national and international health challenge. And so it really incorporates things around cell therapy, regenerative medicine, precision medicine, gene therapy, and synthetic biology. And what we realize is that there is significant development potential. So what we realize at the moment is many of the technology platforms available for the production of these novel therapies are somewhat limited, they're dated, they're stagnant, and there's a challenge around how do we establish process control mechanisms, how to improve production moving forward, and how do we think about manufacture at scale. And that's very important because when you see these therapies that are currently available or have been available in the market at some point, which are considered advanced cell and gene therapy. So things like Prochymal, which is a mesenchymal stem cell product, or Kymriah, which is a CAR T product currently available, or Glybera, which was one of the original gene therapies, or Provenge, which is a therapy designed to treat prostate cancer. You can see the price tags associated with these therapies. They're astronomical. The cheapest being $93,000 and the most expensive being somewhere about $1 million. And at one point, this was the most expensive drug ever to be produced. That's actually now been surpassed. There's now a product on the market for $1.6 million, which is another gene therapy. But clearly, from our perspective, this isn't sustainable. Whilst these therapeutics are revolutionary and they are changing people's lives, and in many cases, they're curing people of their conditions, this isn't sustainable from an economic standpoint. So the question we've always tried to address from both a research perspective, which we bring into our teaching, as well as trying to educate the next generation of engineers and scientists, is how can we reduce the cost of these therapies, and how can we increase global accessibility to these therapies? It's not just about treating patients who live in the West and who are affluent and have the money to pay for these therapies, but how do we get these therapies to people around the world who could benefit from these amazing and revolutionary clinical products? So that's really been the goal that we've tried to address. And it's really highlighted by, I think, the commissioner of the US FDA, or recently resigned Commissioner Gottlieb. So Commissioner Scott Gottlieb was the commissioner of the US FDA, which is the US Food and Drug Administration, which is the US medicines regulator. And back in 2018, he delivered a speech where he outlined that the greater challenge, which is slowing the advance of gene therapies at this stage, is the limitation in manufacturing capability. So this was an actual direct comment from the US FDA commissioner, that the major challenge that is limiting the advance of these novel therapies is the limitation in manufacturing capability. And he went further in that same speech, and he highlighted that we have to establish and develop scalable manufacturing processes which retain the inherent quality attributes of these novel products. So it's about scale, it's about trying to address the manufacturing capability and trying to get these therapies through to the market and to the patients that need them. And there's been a number of headlines and things that have emerged in the public media highlighting some of these challenges. One of these was in the New York Times a couple of years ago, where they highlighted about gene therapy hitting a particular roadblock, and that specific roadblock being a shortage in viral vectors. And that's something we focus extensively on in our program. And part of that shortage of viral, or significant part of that shortage in viral vectors, is the fact that there just aren't enough qualified people. We understand a significant amount about the science. We're starting to establish the manufacturing facilities and capability, but we just don't have the right number of people who can support this industry. And that's highlighted in this second article here in Stat, which highlights that stock sky-high salaries and a $10,000 watch, how startups in the cell and gene therapy space are trying to compete for some of the best scientists and engineers within the sector. And so this has been our goal, is that at the moment, there is some really exciting science, there's some amazing clinical potential, but in addition to the manufacturing challenges, we don't have the right number of people with the right skill set who are able to support this industry moving forward. So even if we have the best science, we're still not able to translate that into actual products because we don't have the people who can support the industry. And that's really been the rationale for the type of work that we do. But also it's important to understand why we do what we do. And what I'm about to show you on the next slide is a video that I show to all of my students. And if you decide to take the program, you will see this video again, probably within the first week of taking the course, because it really, for me, highlights the reason why we do what we do. And when I talk about manufacturing, and we've kind of highlighted some of the challenges around manufacturing, and we present that quite extensively in the teaching that we do. So that was an example of the CAR-T process that Emily received. CAR-T is a therapy that Emily received, and we go through that in detail as part of the program. We identified that manufacturing is really only half the problem within the industry. This was a report back in 2019, and there's an updated version actually in the last couple of months, presented or made or developed by the Cell and Gene Therapy Catapult, which is a UK government-funded organization, which highlighted that by 2024, there was going to be over 3,000 more jobs required within the industry based on company estimates. And over half of those jobs were going to be in what we call bioprocessing, or in the manufacturing space. This is now, as I said, there's been an updated version in 2021, which shows that these figures are already out of date, and there's even more jobs that are going to be available, and even more of them will be in the manufacturing and the commercialization space. So what we're starting to see is that there are companies that are recruiting like crazy at the moment, trying to get the best scientists and engineers that they can, but there just aren't enough good people. And that's one of the things that this program is looking to address. So what are we doing at UCL to address this particular skills shortage? We've got a number of activities right the way from the undergraduate level through to post experience or post industry level. I'm not going to focus on all of them. Obviously, the thing I want to focus on is on our master's program, but there are some doctorate opportunities available for students who want to continue and go on to research in collaboration with industry afterwards, or indeed just want to go straight into industry. So let's talk about the MSc program specifically. So this MSc in the Manufacture and Commercialization of Stem Cell and Gene Therapies, it's a one-year full-time program with the intention of developing the next generation of engineers, scientists, and business professionals. The program is aimed at enabling and enhancing and empowering two types of leaders. The first is scientific and manufacturing leaders, and the second is what we call business and technology leaders. And the intention is that from 2023 onwards, this program will be delivered at our brand new £400 million UCL East campus. It's going to be one of the flagship master's programs, which will be launched at the 2023 at the UCL East campus. At the moment, it's still being delivered on our main campus at UCL in Gower Street, but as the new campus opens, it will be delivered there. And we have a number of companies who are involved in our program, either through our industry steering committee or through separate advisory boards, or indeed research projects and the like, and site visits and so on. And that's something I'll touch on in just a few moments. I have got another video which just gives a very quick overview about the program itself, and you'll see some familiar faces and voices, as well as some of the voices of former students and industry steering committee members.
What excites me about stem cell and gene therapies is the massive potential that it has and the curative aspect of it. So when you look at traditional ways of treating things, you were treating symptoms, whereas now you're looking at this exciting new field that can basically cure you of your disease, and then you move on with a normal life. And it just has so many options out there to help so many people.
The Masters in the Manufacture and Commercialization of Stem Cell and Gene Therapies is a new one-year program established at UCL in the Department of Biochemical Engineering, which focuses on developing the next generation of engineers, scientists, and business professionals to develop, manufacture, and commercialize advanced therapies, particularly stem cell and gene therapies.
We have a steering committee of industrial expertise that are going to commit time to teach on this program and give us their experiences in the industry and how they actually carry out their roles and what's required of them. So that's going to be invaluable for any student that's looking to get into the industry. And that, for me, I've been teaching for 10 years plus in higher education. I've never had that experience. It's a fantastic opportunity for students because we can put in the information that the experts in the industry are wanting to impart themselves.
This is a unique program which gives students the opportunity to learn about science, engineering, manufacturing, and the business side of delivering products to patients.
The steering committee is really important because it's comprised both of the academic leaders and also industry experts like myself. And together what we're going to do is to craft this course to make sure it's really relevant, most contemporary knowledge is available to the students.
I've been fortunate enough to be in the cell and gene therapy space for quite a long time, starting out as a clinician and then working to develop therapies for patients. And through that time, I've noticed how amazing it is to be able to really make a very big difference in patients' lives. And I'd really like to share that with new people that are coming on to lead the therapies of the future. But more importantly, I want to learn from them because it's only with their ideas that we'll really move this area forward.
This is a great opportunity for the UK as a country, but the sector as a whole globally. And it has a specific need for skill right across the skill set for what is required in the industry.
The good thing about this program is that we're not making the students ready for one kind of a job. On the contrary, we'll make the students be aware that they have different opportunities, because not only, for example, we're gonna teach them research in the lab, they're gonna be doing cost analysis, commercialization. So when they will finish, they can go to a company, and then within the company they can work in different sectors like legislation, bioprocessing, analytics, preclinical, and even commercialization. And not only that, we're gonna make them explore more research. So if they wanna go and do a PhD in collaboration with a company, they can do an PhD too.
There's a massive impact of industry into this degree. So there's a massive connection, which as a master's student, so anyone in academy, that's what you want to have. You want to know where you're going to be working in the future. You want to see what they want, what they need, what their challenges are, and how you can learn about how to solve them.
This program allows us to understand and appreciate all factors which go into manufacturing and developing these advanced therapies. So that includes ethics, regulations, and the initial manufacturing and commercialization. Essentially optimizing the manufacturing process, keeping in mind all of these factors, in order to create an advanced therapy for the patient at an affordable price for the healthcare system and for society as a whole.
We're looking for students who are proactive and want to make a change. Students that realize we're currently at a tipping point in the global healthcare industry, where we need new therapeutic modalities to address the chronic age-related conditions we're now facing. We want to empower, enhance, and enable two types of future complementary leaders: scientific and manufacturing leaders, and business and technology leaders who can propel this industry moving forward and address some of the key challenges we face in getting these therapies to patients that need them.
So hopefully through that video, you've got a bit of an overview about the program itself. I think it does quite a good job of introducing you to different people, to some of the academics and teaching staff that teach on the program, but also some of the industry steering committee members, and also includes one of our former students, Lihi Libni, who graduated as part of our first cohort from the program. So this just gives you an overview of the program structure. So we won't go through this in detail, but effectively we've created 6 brand new modules. All of these are brand new, designed specifically for the master's program that we have. Normally when people create master's programs, they take existing modules that might, be within the university and try and put them together. We felt that wouldn't be appropriate for this. We wanted to create brand new modules that were designed with industry in mind and with the concept with the input from some of our industry steering committee members to try and create what we felt was a cohesive program to address some of the issues within the sector. So there's a module that I lead on advanced therapy manufacture. There's a module that Samir leads on the commercialization, regulation, and ethics of advanced therapies. Another module that Samir leads focused on the preclinical and clinical analyses of advanced therapies. A module that one of our colleagues, Dr. Kent Gustafsson, leads around emerging tools and technologies. And then finally, the last 2 modules focused on the practical research skills, as well as the advanced therapy research project that Dr. Ranik Khalife leads. Excuse me, I'm not going to run through the entry requirements in detail. These are all available on the website, but here's just some information, and these slides will be made available afterwards as well. But I would recommend, for the latest information about entry requirements, do check our website. All of the information is on the program page. What I do just want to very quickly finish and touch on is around the teaching style and the industrial alignment. So traditionally, most teaching programs will focus on things like case-based learning or lectures and seminars and tutorials, and we have much of that within our program, but we also have what I like to call real-world teaching. So we have Dragon's Den business plan pitches delivered in front of some potential investors or some of our industrial steering committee members. We have MBA style teaching, so lots of networking sessions and opportunities for our students to engage with one another, and they get a chance to spend time with an industrial mentor. That's something that they have. They each term, the students will have access to an industrial mentor that they can speak to and arrange a one-on-one meeting with. We have industry and clinical visits, and I'll show some of the pictures of our most recent visit. We have access to Labster, which is a virtual laboratory, so students can undertake experimental studies or some scenarios online. We plan to have our first industry and alumni dinner this year. That's obviously something we've had to postponed because of COVID, but we certainly plan to have that this summer as part of our first industry and alumni dinner, now that we actually have an alumni activity with our first cohort who have graduated and our second cohort coming through as well. And the opportunity, as I said, to meet with various leaders within the sector, not just on our industry steering committee, but also across the sector as a whole, given our extensive network at UCL. So I've touched on very briefly the site visits. So we have committed to offering at least a minimum of 3 industry or clinical site visits at no additional cost. And some of the companies we have approached and are very keen to support us are listed there via their logos. But we also want to support and enable our students to attend conferences. And so one of the conferences I'm very keen our students are able to attend is going to be the meeting this year in May, which will be at the XL Center, focused on the World Advanced Therapies and Regenerative Medicine activity. And so that's something we're negotiating with the conference to allow our students to be able to attend. We're also very keen to try and organize a site visit to non-cell and gene therapy manufacturing facilities such as Jaguar Land Rover. They've currently put that on hold because of COVID, but we are trying to get our students to be able to attend that. But talking of site visits, here's a picture of our most recent site visit. So we had the opportunity to visit Mira Gene Therapeutics, which is one of the leading AAV gene therapy companies, and we were able to visit their facilities in London. So this is an image of our current cohort after that visit, and I think they took a lot away from the visit. I think we were fantastically hosted by the company and very grateful for them to allow us to visit the site, and we had a great opportunity to have some discussions afterwards and raise a number of questions as well. And here's just a quick overview of our industry steering committee. Again, I won't go through all the members in detail, but it's chaired by Dr. Sven Keely, who is CEO of Antion Biosciences and was previously vice president of GSK's cell and gene therapy activity as well. But we have some leading experts right across the sector, have a huge amount of experience, a huge amount of companies and different activities within the cell and gene therapy sector represented by our industry steering committee, who not only support in terms of advising on content, but actually teach material. So particularly in Samir's module on the commercialization, there's lots of interviews and material from the industry steering committee members, but also take part in some of the assessment activities as well. So are actually going to be attending the Dragon's Den and provide input on that. The other thing, as I mentioned, is we have access and we have full licenses for our students to use things like Labster, which is effectively a virtual laboratory environment. So students can work remotely on a computer and undertake some scenarios in addition to actual lab-based training. So this is images from our students last year. So despite the fact that we had COVID last year, we were one of the few programs across the entirety of UCL. Our students were able to attend for some of the lab sessions last year. No other UCL students were allowed, or certainly not in the Faculty of Engineering, which has over 6,000 or 7,000 students. But our students were able to request concession and extra or special dispensation for them to attend during COVID. So you can see some of our students undertaking various techniques as part of the program itself. So finally, just to touch on why UCL for this program. Well, in the healthcare manufacturing space, and specifically in the cell and gene therapy area, we have over 20 million pounds of investment. Here's one of our large activities where we have a 10 million pound healthcare manufacturing hub focused on targeted or precision medicines and personalized cell therapies. And as part of our hub, we have a number of users or companies involved who partake in research, and much of this research, the research outcomes feed back into our teaching. And also UCL is one of the leading institutions globally. It's one of the top, I would say now top 10 or top 15 academic institutions in the world. In the most recent research exercise framework, the REF, which is a national activity to rank universities in terms of their research, UCL was ranked first in the UK for research strength. The Faculty of Engineering at UCL, which is what we are part of, is the second largest recipient of funding from the EPSRC, which is one of the largest research council, and we're the most impactful engineering faculty in Europe. And then our specific department, the Department of Biochemical Engineering, is the first and only department in the UK dedicated to biochemical engineering, and 90% of our activity is rated at world leading or internationally excellent. So really one of the top leading departments in this space globally. And that's backed up by, I think, a significant number of academic and teaching staff, but also a significant amount of investment in our facilities. So we have over £50 million of facilities, which if you come to UCL, we'll be more than happy to show you around. And we have a significant amount of research capability and a number of doctoral opportunities for those students who might be interested in taking on a PhD or NGD afterwards. This gives you an idea about some of the investment in our various facilities. So we have £25 million centre for processing manufacturing recombinant materials and antibodies and so on. We've recently upgraded our human cell therapy facilities, and we now have £1.5 million invested there, and a number of other activities which support the delivery of our teaching and training activity. And then finally, on employability, what will the program offer you in terms of employability? So graduates from this MSc are in very high demand. Just to give you some idea of just how in demand our students are, in our first cohort, we had 16 students. With about a month to go on the program, all 16 had been offered a job of some sort. Whether they accepted was a different issue, but all 16 had been offered a job by companies within the industry. And our surveys immediately, but 3 months after graduation or after the course was completed, was that all 16 had secured a job in a company that they wanted to go to, their first choice company effectively. So that's an excellent outcome and an excellent opportunity. One of the students stayed on to do a PhD and is working with myself at the moment, but others are in various positions across the industry. And this is just an overview of some of the companies. Some of these are not necessarily graduates from our MSc program, but from our doctoral programs as well. But you can see that those that have graduated in the last 12 months are, some of the key companies within the sector: Mira, Autolus, Achilles, Selectis, Oxford Biomedica, and so on. And then we have those that graduated perhaps longer than 12 months ago from our doctoral programs. You can see very quickly they become very senior in their organizations: associate director, head of viral vector production or industrialization, senior process development scientist, product managers, and business development manager, and so on. And so finally, just to touch on some of the things that our students will obtain through their program. So the ability to work and develop the necessary practical training skills, learning about good manufacturing practice, and we're also trying to design and produce graduates that are industry ready. We recognize that some students may want to go on and stay and do an NGD, and we've also got opportunities to do that. And here's one example of one particular program, but we have other doctoral programs as well. We've recently launched a new doctoral program that allows some of our MSc students to stay on and do a PhD if they'd like to. This is in collaboration with Oxford Biomedica and is in collaboration with the University of Oxford, where we've committed to training 24 doctoral students over the next 3 years. So we've just taken, or will be taking in our first cohort this September. So we have another 2 rounds to go over the next 2 years. We'll be taking in 8 students per year, focus on the viral vector space. So there'll be 4 students at Oxford and 4 students at UCL. And we think our master's students are probably best placed to apply for these types of programs, given what they'll be learning on our master's course as well. So with that, I'd like to thank you for your attention, and I'll stop sharing here. And let's move straight into the discussion section. So hopefully that's given you a good overview. If there are any questions, Kim, I suspect that people can put it into the Q&A box or into the chat. Is that correct?
Yeah, if you could post the questions in the Q&A box rather than the chat, it's just a lot easier to deal with them from our point of view. So please put your questions. If you are joining on a mobile device, you've got a little Q&A button, so you can use that and post your question. You can also post questions anonymously, so please don't hold back. We won't know who asked it.
Thank you very much. So, so as I said, please do feel free to put in any questions you may have in the Q&A box, and we'll certainly get them answered. But in the meantime, I'd like to perhaps start some of the Q&A with Samir and Rana. So Samir, let's start with you first, perhaps. Obviously, you've now taught in the program for a couple of years. What have your experiences been? What do you think the students have taken away from it? And what do you think this potential program offers that maybe others that you've seen or been involved in perhaps don't?
It's a very good question. So I teach two aspects to it: the idea of the preclinical and clinical analysis of these drugs, and also the commercialization, how it works. And I think one thing that stands out is when students come, is that they all come from different backgrounds, but they all leave with a kind of joint understanding of the multidisciplinary nature of the development of these kind of drugs. Because one thing we try to get across in this course is that drug development was very much a sort of linear process that was done in silos once upon a time, when you were developing small molecule drugs that are basically just small tiny chemicals. Someone would research them and look at how they work in, in the pharmacological sense, and then they'd pass it over to someone who's a medicinal chemist who would just go and work out the process of producing it. But we can't really do that anymore. And so what you have now is the fact that you have people in manufacturing who kind of need to know a little bit about how the drug works. And then you have people who are studying how the drug works and trying to improve it, who need to understand the manufacturing aspects so that they're not making mistakes or errors down the line. So I think that one of the nicest things is seeing that students that come to the program don't necessarily have that realization, but then all leave understanding just how important it is to be able to communicate with people from different disciplines and work together with them. And that comes across quite nicely in the commercialization module that we do on the course, which brings everyone's thinking together. And one thing you notice is that as a team, you come together with your preferences and your sort of certain people have stronger knowledge in one area over others, and it's really nice to see students come together and kind of team up to utilize each other's strengths to overcome these kind of these discussions that require multidisciplinary thinking. So yeah, I think it's the idea of students coming together and noticing that the field is very different to how it used to be in the traditional process of drug development and drug manufacture as well. So yeah, I'd say that was probably what stands out the most.
Fantastic. And perhaps Rana, the same question to you. So obviously you've been teaching on the program as well, and you've met a number of the students and you've kind of seen them develop, but also the program evolve as well. What are your thoughts on that?
So first, I want to touch base on the student expectation. So the students were very happy that, although some of them, they did not have any lab experience. So I'm just talking about my courses as the core practical skills and the research project. So they did not have any experience in the lab, and they wanted some lab experience, and we were during the pandemic. So what really helped them is going through Labster, which is a virtual simulator that they did all of their theoretical part. And then when they went to the lab, they were able to work in the lab, to have hands-on, to passage the cells, to do some analytics. So we got a really good feedback after the lab that the students really enjoyed it. And the fact that we were the first to go to the lab at the end of the pandemic. And some of the students did not choose lab-based project for their research project, so they chosen desk-based. So they were happy that they at least got this kind of a small experience to go to the lab for at least 1 week and to do all of these analytics. And then during the research project, they were able to go to the lab for 3 months to do their research project. They were interacting even with PhD students. So it's a good thing that at this point, some of you will be like looking for the future plans. So talking to PhD students who are doing their PhD, for example, can help you develop your career. What do you want to do? What does a PhD involve? So all of these, and then the interaction with, so for example, some of the students were doing stem cells, but they were interacting or shadowing other students that they were doing another project. So this is a good thing for you to gain knowledge, or at least to see how things are done differently in the lab.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that. We've had a question come in that I can probably answer is what does the application or interview process involve? So the application process involves you being able to submit an application via the UCL system. So you need to have, I think, a copy of your transcript and be able to submit your statement and references. and then it goes through the UC application process. There is no formal interview involved, but there is emphasis placed on your personal statement. So do think carefully about your personal statement. Explain your motivations for wanting to undertake this program. And we found that students who are able to do that are certainly welcomed on this course. Okay, so perhaps there's another question here, and I might pose this to Samir. How will the department view the commerce background of students, especially those with lower academic outcomes, but more internships or work experiences?
Good question. I'm not quite sure I fully understand. How will the department view the commerce background of the students? Is that in relation to the background they have in understanding commercial aspects?
That was my initial
already,
read of it. So maybe if we take it as that, and then.
Okay. Yeah. So I would say that you don't you don't need much of a commercial background at all. On the contrary, like I said, we have quite a wide range of backgrounds. Students that come with more biomedical science related backgrounds, others with manufacturing and engineering backgrounds, even chemical engineers, for example. I think the focus of this degree is to not necessarily inundate you with detail, but to try to summarize things in a way that points you in the right direction towards understanding some of the key subjects. So in terms of commercialization, we teach you the key aspects required and don't necessarily expect you to have a full business background already, because like we said, this degree is quite interdisciplinary. So you can't necessarily be an expert already in something before we expect you to learn some new material about the concepts of commercialization. So we teach you those things essentially, and therefore you don't necessarily need a particularly specific background in business elements.
And then maybe just building on that, so students who perhaps maybe have lower academic outcomes, but have maybe work experience or internships and so on. What are your thoughts on those students who come with those sorts of backgrounds?
It does, I guess it would be slightly dependent on what kind of experience that is, because there is some, there's still a requirement to understand the basic biology that's going on with these drugs. And whilst we can teach you the basics and then build you up to understand the more advanced concepts that underpin the development of these kind of advanced therapies, if you don't necessarily have a strong, or not necessarily strong, but if your background isn't necessarily related to biology, then I think there are options that we can do to help, but it would be beneficial, I would say, to have a fairly solid understanding in biology, and that's so that you can understand both the manufacturing and the development side of things.
Sure. And then Rana, perhaps just coming to you on the kind of the lab-based activity. So obviously you're kind of primarily responsible for some of the lab-based modules, the research projects, the core practical research skill. Can give us a bit of a flavor as to what the students might be doing, some of the techniques they'll be learning, and the things that they'll be exposed to.
So what we do usually during the term is we teach them the fundamental about the cell culture, the analytical labs, and then during in the last week of term, we go to the lab. So we teach them the basic of how to culture cells, the suspended cells, the ones that are not attached, and then the attached cells, and different type of stem cells, because we have pluripotent stem cells and other adult stem cells. And then we kind of create a scenario in which you are differentiating these cells into bone cells in different conditions. So what the students will do is that they will do this differentiation, and then they will go to the lab and try to assess their protocol using different techniques, protein level techniques to assess the protein level, and then the DNA. So we teach them how to do real-time PCR, Western blot, cell count, even flow cytometer, and then how to count the cells if they are growing in a shaker flask or a small bioreactor.
Okay, fantastic. So they'll be exposed to a number of different things, and you mentioned, they'll be looking at both stem cell types and non-stem cell types, maybe T cells or whatever it might be. So,
and sorry, Qasim, just to add, like, not only we teach them the analytical labs, we teach them how to analyze their data, how to process their data, and then we teach them the different types of statistics for them to be able, at the end of their research project, to go and write a report in which it's kind of like a paper published style paper.
Okay, fantastic.
Just to say that we did have a hand up. I'm not sure whether
I missed that.
Attendee wants to jump in again. I'm not sure, Kim, if...
Yeah, please do. So George, I think you've got your hand up. You can, I think you should be able to ask by a microphone. I don't know, Kim, if that's
we
feasible.
don't have attendees able to join in.
Okay, that's fine. So George, if you could put your question in the chat, that would be great. I think the way we set up this Zoom webinar is that we don't have attendees who are able to speak. So please do put that in the chat. We'll try and get that answered. There was a quick question related to the someone having a chemical engineering degree and having a GPA. What would that align from a US university? What would that align to a 2-1 in the UK system? The best thing to do is check our website, and also UCL admissions will have that information. We still encourage you to apply. It will depend on different universities and how they're ranked, but there will be a specific GPA that is provided and expected for different universities, both US and international.
I think off the top of my head, it's 3.4 that translates to 2.
It's somewhere around that, But for the exact thing, I'd recommend people contact UCL admissions, and that will have all the information. So perhaps just touching on the assessments, one of the things I'd like to ask is both Samir and Rana. Are the assessments predominantly examination based, or are there different types of assessments, and what do you think is the benefit of that, and how do you think the students react and find the different types of assessments? Maybe I'll start with you, Samir.
A good question. I'm not a big fan of exams, if I'm perfectly honest, but what we try to do is incorporate this idea of authentic assessment into this degree, and that is to design assessments that mimic the activities that you would do in the industrial setting. In other words, the roles or tasks that you do post-graduation if you find yourself a job in one of these companies. So we do things like mini report writing, data analysis activities, something that our steering group said that they wanted. And also we create real life scenarios around, in the commercialization module anyway, around the idea of developing a hypothetical product and a business plan around it. And we give you lots of help in instructing you what you can and can't do alongside the material itself, of course. But we also put you in a position where you can test your business proposal in a safe space, but in front of the steering committee members who have genuine expertise, obviously, by working in the field. But we set up a Dragon's Den style pitch scenario where you can present your ideas and your business plan around your hypothetical product and see what they say in terms of their opinion. And of course, we'll grade you on it, and it's not necessarily based on what they say. It's more based on how your overall performance is. But we try to create this idea of authentic assessment where you're doing activities that mimic what you'll be doing once you're inside the industry itself.
Fantastic. And then Ron, I don't know if you want to give a bit more from your perspective, but also maybe on the research project and how they'll be assessed, but the elements involved in that.
So first, for the core practical skills, because it is basically you going to the lab. So we're gonna be assessing you on how you analyze your data, how you write your report, and lab performance. Now, when it comes to the research project, it's heavily based on your final report, as long as your lab performance and then your poster presentation, because at the end of your research project, we will invite you to come to the poster session, and we'll invite the steering committee members to come and assess your poster session. So it will be more report, lab performance, lab notebook, and then the poster session itself.
Fantastic, thanks for that. So I think we've just had the second question come in here. So why has the master's program focused on stem cells? Can you explain a little bit between CAR-T cell therapy and stem cell therapies? Rana, I might pose that to you. I can maybe answer the first part. Why is the program focused on stem cells? And then I'll hand the second question to you, Rana. So why the program is focused on stem cells is this is one of the advanced therapy cell types, which is going to be very important moving forward. We've seen the remarkable impact of both adult stem cell therapies as well as pluripotent or embryonic stem cell therapies, and the role that they will most likely play moving forward. There are some stem cell therapies available on the market, but we expect that to increase over the coming 5, 10, 15 years, and they will play a pivotal role in providing the cell types of the future as we look at it from now. But perhaps, Rana, your take on maybe that question, but also the difference between CAR-T and stem cell therapies.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a bit biased to stem cells in comparison with CAR-T. So after 1998, when they first isolated the embryonic stem cell, there was a lot of ethical debate until 2007, when the Nobel Prize winner Yamanaka discovered how you can reprogram any cell type in your body to become pluripotent stem cells. And by doing this, there was like kind of a rush of clinical trials for to reprogram any cell type in your body, and then differentiated into retinal cells. And now they're treating Parkinson's disease as well. So most of the clinical trials nowadays are heading towards how we can generate any cell type of your body. Not only that, with the discovery of CAR-T in the video that Qasim has shown, nowadays what they're trying to do, they're trying to link both together. So how can we, if we want to do this CAR-T therapy, not autologous, so not patient to patient, we want to do it allogeneic. So for us to give it to more people, can we generate this kind of CAR-T? Because it's basically a cell in your body. So we can differentiate that from pluripotent stem cells. So what if we can generate a universal pluripotent stem cells and then differentiate it into this T cell? Can we decrease the cost of it? So there is kind of now a linkage between the stem cell therapy and then the CAR-T therapy, and all the funds are heading toward that. That's why we want to focus, and we want to give our students the top information, the latest information about that.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that, Rana.
Just add there in the
Yeah,
last
please
couple
go
of
ahead.
minutes. Yeah, so Qasim has talked about CAR-T cells, Rana has talked about stem cells. Personally, I think gene therapy is more up there as well. So actually you get a flavor of all three, really. All three are significant developments in the advanced therapeutics space. And so there isn't necessarily a focus on any particular one of these. I think each particular type of therapy is good to exemplify the various parts of the process. So manufacture, for example, or drug development, for example, the types of analyses that you do to study how a drug works, each are exemplified a little bit better by one form of therapy over the other. So we use all three, to be honest, in this degree to illustrate how advanced therapies are commercialized and manufactured.
Fantastic, and that's an excellent answer, Samir. I think an excellent way to round it off. So it's great to hear the input and the passion from Rana about stem cells and from you about gene therapies. And I do have a huge passion for things like gene modified cell therapy, so the CAR-Ts. And as Samir said, we do focus and cover all three different modalities because we feel they'll all be important moving forward as well. So I'm conscious of time, so I'd like to thank both Samir and Rana in particular for their time, and also to Kim for organizing this particular session, and importantly all of you for attending. It's been great to have you join us. I hope that's given you a good overview of what the program will involve, it will entail, the excitement and the passion behind the course, and the opportunities that it presents moving forward. If you do have any questions, feel free to reach out by email or contact us after the webinar, and we'll be happy to answer your questions. But with that, we'd like to thank you all, and hope you have a good rest of the day. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.